everyone, welcome to the Generation Y Conservative Show. I am your host, Chris. We have a lot to talk about today, including the Mueller Report, which will be one of the last things that we go over. We also have a new video and review of a Smith & Wesson revolver in coordination with Relic firing line. We're going to go over a big first segment today in regards to the movie Unplanned. I'll give my movie review and then also show you how that film has been having an effect across the nation and soon to be across the world. But first, before we get to that, we're actually going to go over some of the sponsors for our show. Number one, Patriot Mobile, okay? You may be familiar with them. They're being advertised all over the program and everything. This is a veteran-led company, okay, which is very important. And they offer cell phone plans for people like you and me. And the most important part of that is there's a lot of different cell phone companies out there that you can go with. The big names you obviously already know. But those cell phone companies take their revenue and donate it to organizations that you and I don't necessarily agree with. Number one being an organization like Planned Parenthood, which we'll talk about shortly. Why would you do that when you can instead be having a company represent you and donating to causes like the Family Research Council or Susan B. Anthony List or the NRA or the Heritage Foundation, right? These are organizations that you can get behind, and you have a cell phone carrier now that you can switch over to for as low as $25 a month for these plans. You can bring your own phone over, you can get any one of their phones, and you can check out the coverage map, which I know is very important to people when they're considering switching cell phone companies, is to see if they actually have coverage. Go to their website, check out the coverage map and see. It's a great coverage. I mean, it's up there with all the competitors. They're all using the same towers now anyway. Head over to patriotmobile.com/Mojo50, which will waive your activation fee, okay? If you want to call into the number and switch over, all you have to do is call 1-800-A-PATRIOT and use the promo code Mojo50. Okay, that will waive your activation fee. Join me and the rest of America as we switch over to Patriot Mobile today and let freedom ring. Also, one of the other sponsors of the program is Nostalgia. Now, next month we have Mother's Day coming up, and Nostalgia has put together a Mother's Day crate for the mother in your family, whether that's your mother, your grandmother, maybe your wife who's a mother. Just show your appreciation. The items that were chosen because of the very best, and they're available for you right now. In this crate, you can actually see the crate if you head over to the Mojo website, as well as the social media pages and everything. You'll actually see the crate, I believe, on some of the show's studios, right in the front of the desk there. In the crate, you'll be able to get a maple syrup, which is rich and naturally sweet flavor, full of healthy trace minerals, accompanied by their wild rice pancake mix for a perfect breakfast. They also have a hazelnut honey, which is addictive and great on breads and any kind of hot cereal, tea, or coffee. There's also a really delicious blueberry jam, which you can put on bread, or they're even saying on ice cream, which is pretty interesting as well. And just for that special woman in your life who is a mother, you can also give her a pure soy candle, which is hand-poured, lead and dye-free, with a fragrance to relax and soothe. Now, you can enjoy this crate or any of the other wonderful products that she would care for on their website. You can actually save 10% on the Mother's Day crate or any item in your cart when you use the promo code MOM10. But orders must be received by Sunday, May 5th to guarantee delivery for Mother's Day. Time flies, so don't wait. Get your gift order today, and remember to use the promo code MOM10. Welcome to the Generation Y conservative review of the movie Unplanned. Based on a true story, Unplanned centers around Abby Johnson, whom, through flashbacks, we learn started her career in Planned Parenthood after accepting false mission statements by the organization's booth on her college campus, which leads her to volunteer at the local abortion clinic as an escort for incoming mothers looking to have an abortion. Abby's ambition and drive to succeed in her job and her naive notion of actually helping women gets her promoted through the ranks to becoming a campus booth person herself, an office worker, and eventually a Planned Parenthood Employee of the Year clinic director. The movie does a great job showing how her parents are staunchly pro-life and want her out of the profession, but maintain their love and support for her as to not scare her off, meanwhile praying for divine intervention into her life. Even Abby's second husband takes serious issue with her profession and makes it very clear to her. Abby often tries to communicate her workday to her family only to have it fall on deaf, unwelcoming ears with no responses, a cold shoulder approach to showing their disdain for killing babies. Unplanned spotlights many things that the audience as a whole should take into consideration. For women, the illusion that Planned Parenthood is there for women's health, and that abortion is only one service. The fact is, they are there as an abortion mill to push the baby-killing service and make money. For family of those that are pro-abortion, taking a loving approach while also ignoring their talk about abortion as a positive idea is probably one of the best ways to show that you don't like their support of the act but love them. For Christians, the difference between those that stand with signs of aborted babies screaming and yelling at women is oftentimes, and I would argue most times, the least effective way to both prevent abortion and to change one's hearts towards Christ.
No matter what you do for the rest of your life, you're still going to be a baby killer.
After years of simple conversation through a fence, a soft-spoken Christian woman who showed love and compassion toward Abby as a worker was able to help her transition into being a pro-life advocate. The movie was described to me as having a very life-changing, emotionally charged scene that lasted around the vicinity of about 20 seconds. My guess is this is one that happens within the first 5 minutes of the movie, showing the ultrasound abortion taking place as the baby recoils from the vacuum and exhibits pain as the doctor extracts the baby in pieces. While this is a tough scene to watch, those of us who are staunchly pro-life probably already know what happens, but it is terrifying to see nonetheless. Another scene showing one of Abby's own abortions, a chemically induced abortion via pill, lends to one of the more horrifying scenes in the movie, showcasing not only the extremely physical stress it puts on a woman's body for days, but also the nonchalant manner in which Planned Parenthood brushes it off as, quote, a gentle flushing of the uterus, which turns out to be anything but, looking instead like a post-massacre scene from a horror movie. While the visuals of these two scenes make us in the audience grip our seats as our stomach turns, it was a character interaction scene that made me tear up the most. When we think about women who feel they need to get an abortion, however they justify that in their minds, we often think that these are women who are left alone in society and have no one to support them, oftentimes hiding their pregnancy from their loved ones due to fear or simply getting one as a matter of convenience. One scene depicts a woman getting out of her car with her young daughter in tow, obviously knowing the value of the child's life, on her way in to get an abortion. The woman's mother, the child's grandmother, is on the other side of the fence screaming through tears for her daughter not to go through with it, that she actually has family support.
Rhonda, baby, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Whatever you need, you can come live with us. That baby you're carrying is gonna be just as beautiful as Lily. Rhonda, don't do this. Rhonda!
While Christian-based movies have been getting better in regards to acting, Unplanned certainly has the chops for a Hollywood-level film. My one criticism is of the over-the-top portrayal of the boss of Abby, who is presented like a Cruella de Vil character, pushing abortions like she has the devil's right hand on her shoulder puppeting her, and the obliviousness of Planned Parenthood workers on what they are actually doing in the clinics. While hard to balance on screen for characters, the truth may lie closer to the fact that Planned Parenthood sees babies being killed as merely numbers, objectives, and goal setting for the clinics to make money without an ounce of sympathetic humanity behind them. The question isn't should you see Unplanned, it's when are you going to see Unplanned? And the fact is that you should support this movie financially in the theaters to let Hollywood and dissenters know that this is who we are. This is what we support. This is the kind of movies we are looking for, and that we refuse to allow Hollywood to beat independent filmmakers into the darkness any longer without consideration for the great things that they provide to society. The Generation Y conservative movie score for Unplanned is 8.5 out of 10. And while it's rated R, specifically a tactic used by the rating systems to keep Christians out of the theaters and drive down ticket prices, I would argue that you should go and see this movie if you are a Christian. You should also be taking your kids to see it if they're over the age of 14, in my mind. If a film is rated R because of scenes in it that kids shouldn't be seeing under the age of 18, then you can't also be advocating for kids under the age of 18 to be able to go into a clinic and receive an abortion without their parents' permission. That should tell you something. As I said, not only should you see this, I would encourage you to bring any of your children over the age of 14 to see it so that they can grasp the knowledge of what an abortion is and why sex isn't a pleasure game. After the movie, you should discuss how you as a parent are there to support and love them under any circumstances, and that they shouldn't be afraid to approach you if they or their partner get pregnant, and then discuss choices like adoption. Unplanned is still in theaters and just about to be released internationally. Go and see it as soon as you can, and then let me know in the comments what scene impacted you the most. Now, interestingly enough, there's some stories that have been coming out in regards to this movie. Fortunately for Unplanned and for the movie industry as a whole, especially Christian movies, this movie has been doing so well that it's been in the top 5, at least, movies in the nation since its release, which is really telling. It's great for the pro-life movement. It's changing hearts and minds out there, especially within the industry itself, which we're actually going to talk about in a little bit. But it was really interesting to see the reaction from our own side, right? And here's an article going over that on FaithWire. It says Christian radio station K-Love refused to air Unplanned ads for being too political. I don't know how that makes any sense. It says, Christian radio behemoth K-Love found itself in hot waters when executives at the company blocked commercials for the pro-life movie Unplanned. I'm stuttering there. The PureFlix film tells the story of Abby Johnson, a former Planned Parenthood director who parted the organization after she watched a doctor perform an abortion via ultrasound. In late March, Johnson revealed the Christian radio network had banned ads for Unplanned, claiming the content was too political, which K-Love works to avoid. So K-Love actually responded to this by saying on their Facebook page, K-Love recently reviewed questions regarding how we decide what movies and books we promote. K-Love's purpose is to encourage people in their relationship with Jesus. We focus on positive and encouraging content that is safe for the whole family. We avoid promoting rated R movies. We stand for biblical truth. We have been and continue to be pro-life and believe in the sanctity of life. And Abby Johnson responded to that. They can't seem to keep track of what they actually stand for. Abby Johnson then had an update of her own saying, I have a wonderful update. After meeting again today with one of the Unplanned producers, K-Love Radio has decided to stand up for the unborn and promote Unplanned. We knew they were pro-life, so their decision only confirms that they do indeed have a heart for the unborn. We are thrilled. Thank you to everyone who sent emails encouraging them to promote the film. Your voices were heard. We are strong together, and I am honored to have K-Love on the team. But in a tweet posted late Friday afternoon last week, Johnson said K-Love is still not airing advertisements for the pro-life movie, which debuted in late March. So that kind of sucks. I don't know where that is right now. But as I said, the reason why it was rated R is specifically to keep Christians out of a Christian movie. And it was a tactic. It's a tactic used by Hollywood and their elitists behind the rating system right now to actually keep us from going to see it based on a simple rating. I would hope that a big major radio station like K-Love would actually be able to see through the nonsense and actually promote this type of movie. As a matter of fact, I would hope that some people within the station, some top-level people, have gone to see the movie and see the benefit to showing and airing promotions for this movie. But that's not the only thing that's been going on. On a positive note, here's another article from FaithWire. It says almost 100 abortion clinic workers seek to leave industry after seeing the pro-life movie Unplanned. So it says the director of PureFlix's movie Unplanned, Chuck Konzelman, revealed to Congress this week that nearly 100 abortion clinic workers have sought to leave their jobs after seeing the pro-life film. During his testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee's subcommittee on the Constitution, Konzelman said that 94 clinic workers have approached former Planned Parenthood executive Abby Johnson's nonprofit, and then there were none, according to the PureFlix Insider. This is what he actually had to say. 1% of the abortion workers in the United States, after getting one look at them being portrayed on film, have decided to change their lives and what they do for a living. The PureFlix filmmaker was on Capitol Hill to speak on a panel regarding Twitter's alleged censorship of Unplanned on its opening weekend in late March. The social media platform temporarily suspended the film's promotional account. And then they also took away the majority of the followers, so people that were following the movie, then once the account was reactivated, found out that they were no longer following it. So go figure on that one as well. Unplanned is the movie that we were talking about earlier and what goes into it. Ashley Brachter, the actor or actress who portrays Johnson in the faith-based movie, tweeted on Thursday she receives messages every single day from people whose lives and minds were changed after seeing Unplanned. Here's just one text that was sent to her. Just want you to know that the abortion-minded client I shared your testimony with says she is now looking forward to being a mother. So again, thanks for allowing yourself to be used by God. And she responded, how amazing. Would you please let me know if there is any way that I can help her or support her. Please send her my love and let her know that I am personally so proud of her. The movie itself, Unplanned, has beat box office expectations for its opening weekend and brought in $6.1 million, which was more than doubled the forecasted earnings. In an interview earlier this month with FaithWire, Konzelman said Unplanned was made for such a time as this, noting that the series of pro-abortion bills that have passed state houses across the U.S. in recent months were coming out at a time when the film was already basically in the can and ready to be released. We couldn't have foreseen the rapid developments that are suddenly coming to a head, he said, but we serve a God who could and did. Isn't that amazing how we have seen all these bills in regards to New York with Cuomo coming out for late-term abortions, what happened in Virginia with Governor Northam, who wrapped up in multiple controversies with everything, including either him or one of the people that he was with. It seems like it was him, dressing up in blackface back in the day. All these things that the Democrats keep on getting pissed off about are all things that they themselves get caught with in the past, right? But yeah, we have a nation right now where they lit up the Empire State Building, I think in pink or red or something like that, it should have been red if nothing else, to signify the blood on the hands of these politicians and everything, for the celebration of late-term abortions. Now, in the film itself, Unplanned, there's a scene of the one that I was talking about where they're actually showing the ultrasound, the day that changed Abby Johnson forever, where she actually had to hold the ultrasound tool there to actually see the baby and hold it there for the doctor to be able to suck out the baby in pieces. And it's amazing to me that you can see something like that and still think that it's not a baby, at just a couple weeks. I believe it's like between 8 and 13 weeks, but I think it's closer to 8 weeks. The baby develops a brain and a heart and and central nervous systems completely separate from the mother itself that's carrying the baby. Its own DNA and own features. The moment of conception has already released a genetic minefield of just what that baby is going to end up being, down to all the characteristic traits of the physical characteristics of that child, and when it gets born, and the color of its eyes, the hair, the height it's going to grow up to be, and everything. And it's just amazing to see all these different things come together in such an explosive moment. Sorry for the visual on that, what it could have been led to. But when you see the scene in the movie of the baby recoiling from the vacuum that the doctor puts in towards a baby, you actually see that that you're led down a wrong path, that you were fed false narratives by Planned Parenthood funded education in schools, and by the clinics themselves when women and couples go into the clinics. And one of the scenes in the movie that I didn't mention in the movie review was the POC room, and you'll get a good idea of what the Planned Parenthood considers POC to mean. But in that scene, after an abortion is performed, they have to go and put the pieces into a petri dish and basically reassemble the baby on a petri dish to make sure that they got all the pieces, because if any pieces were left behind, it could cause a major infection in the mother and lead to death if not treated correctly. So they have to make sure that they got all the pieces, and they reassemble these tiny babies in these petri dishes. And the scene is with Abby Johnson taking tweezers and lifting up a baby arm and showing it and everything. And the on a very small scale, you're looking at a human being. And to say in arguments against those that are pro-life that this is just a fetus, as if a fetus is different than a baby, this ability to separate those two things in your mind and make that disconnect just to naively presume that your argument is correct because two different terms are used for the same exact thing is mind-boggling to me. And it's so sad to see what happens in the clinics, that people can support that type of thing, that there's probably people that could be brought to that movie to try and have their mind changed by an individual who cares about that person, to bring them in and see that movie, and that they could sit there and coldly look at the screen and watch this movie and say, yeah, I understand what's going on there, and quite frankly, I don't care. It doesn't really matter. That's a cold-hearted person. It's someone who it has lost their soul. When you see what happens in the movie as far as the women that go into Planned Parenthood to have abortions, it would be one thing if they were coherent throughout the process and actually watching everything that's going on, seeing the ultrasound of this baby moving around and recoiling from the pain and lashing out as it's being sucked up into a tube, or any of the other things, watching the blood flowing through the tubes as they suck up the pieces of this baby and everything. But what you also realize is when you're watching this film is that these girls are drugged up and left after the procedure in a room where they're all just sitting on plastic chairs in gowns, and left to come back to their senses, and that they don't really realize what they went through, physically speaking, the stress on their bodies that they went through. And it's just amazing to me. But the good news is that there's a lot of people that are changing their mind on what abortion is, that there's people leaving the industry, which is fantastic. Maybe they could shed a light as they come across to the other side. And that, to me, this movie is what we need to be doing. It's what we need to be putting out there. I believe that the overturning of Roe v. Wade can't happen until the majority of hearts and minds are changed on what abortion actually is. Overturning the whole thing would actually lead to animosity between the two sides and further divide the nation. But if we could change the hearts and minds of people, that truly is where we actually get to see progress with Roe v. Wade. But listen, we're going to get into a lot more stuff when we come back, including San Francisco having a real problem with poop still. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these commercials. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Generation Y Conservative Show. Again, I'm your host, Chris. Listen, before we get into this half hour, let's talk about the sponsors for this half hour. Riduzone. Now, if your resolution on New Year's, I know we're a couple months out at this point, almost going on half a year. If your resolution was to lose weight and you've been having a problem with that, you're not alone. A lot of us have indulgence problems, right? Including myself. Just thinking about nachos that I had last night that were spectacular. But listen, Riduzone is actually here to help out. Riduzone is America's first weight management supplement of OEA. What is OEA? Well, it's a natural metabolite of olive oil produced in the human body. Riduzone is a formulation of OEA to aid healthy weight loss. It is safe and FDA accepted by the Food and Drug Administration. And it says here that the body needs 12 liters of olive oil to produce as much OEA in one bottle of Riduzone. Riduzone supports healthy weight, low-calorie consumption, efficient metabolism of body fat. It's also safe. It's a non-stimulant, naturally present in the body. It's actually vegetarian, gluten-free, and non-GMO. Patented, FDA-accepted supplement. Start your weight loss journey now. All you have to do is go to riduzone.com, and when you order, you'll get a special 30% off coupon automatically applied to your 3-month supply. That's Riduzone, RIDUZONE.com. Also, this half hour is brought to you by a company that's really cool. Literally. It's Cat Coolers. So it's a cooler that's rugged and changes everything. These coolers are great. The last couple of weeks we've been talking about how people use coolers, right? They go hunting, you use a cooler. If you go to the beach, you get a cooler. And these are all great for your own personal use. But what about the people in your life? Is it just me, or does it, when it comes down to getting gifts for someone like your father who has everything, all the tools in his toolbox and everything, every little gadget that he can get, you're always looking for that perfect gift idea for someone? Now, I'm not talking about just dads. Everyone uses coolers, right? This would be a great opportunity. There's a lot of big cooler manufacturers out there that, again, have donated to causes that you don't necessarily agree with or support things like the removal of the Second Amendment, which one of the big cooler companies did do. They got behind Dick's Sporting Goods on that one. But listen, when it comes to Cat Coolers, they're rugged. They keep ice cold for up to 7 days. That's pretty awesome. More importantly to most of our audience here on Mojo, it's made in America, it's customizable, and comes in 4 different colors, which isn't necessarily true because it's white, black, yellow, and camouflage, if you consider camouflage one color. There's different codes for Cat Coolers. I'm still working and waiting on my code for it, which is named after my dog, which we'll find out once I actually get that code. But there's a bunch of different codes here for different hosts, so I'm just going to pick out a different one. This time, let's use SAM, S-A-M, as the Cat Cooler code. Your code is actually good for a 10% coupon at catcoolers.com. That's CATCOOLERS.com. So that's pretty cool. Go to Cat Coolers and see what all the buzz is about. All right, if you've been following along with the Generation Y Conservative show for a while now, you would know that some of the most popular topics on the show are making fun of San Francisco and California as a whole for not only their immigration problem, but criticizing their homeless population issue as well as their feces problem. Disgusting stories, drug problems as well. If you walk around San Francisco, I have someone that I currently work with who came from the area out there who told me that when you're walking around with your kids, you literally have to walk around with your hands over their eyes most of the time, no matter where you are, and guiding them around human feces, the homeless, when you're walking through any of the transportation centers, like whether it's a subway or the bus station or anything, that you're literally walking around people using drugs right out on the streets. I personally went out to Hawaii last year and saw a minor homeless population issue out there, and was questioning some of the locals about it and asking like what was going on. There were tent cities set up on nice areas around the resorts, and one of the things that they told me is that it's been proven that California will actually pay for plane trips, one-way trips for their homeless population to fly out to Hawaii and dump them out there and make it Hawaii's problem. That cities like San Francisco will actually bus their homeless people from the city up to other cities up the coast in California, and that those cities will continue to bus people to the next one on and on and on and on. And it's just amazing that this is a liberally run state, liberal cities. I mean, this is the bastion of liberalism in the United States. It's California, right? California, New York, and New Jersey, I think, are the biggest. And then the New England states, I guess, as well as up the West Coast. Sad times is what we're living in, is what I'm trying to say. But isn't it amazing that the people that shout the loudest about taking care of others typically brush the people problems under the carpet and try to hide the issues with them. In the meantime, while they're talking about taking on the immigrant population coming into the United States and the overflow, and give us those people, we'll be sanctuary cities, we'll be sanctuary states and everything. While those people are being poured in, they have a homeless population of actual citizens within their cities that they're failing to take care of. You know, people like Nancy Pelosi in her district of San Francisco, Maxine Waters. These are the biggest hypocrites in Congress, and they're put into leadership positions where they say that they care about people, that they're doing what they can for the people, and yet our people are the ones that are suffering while immigrants come in and commit crimes in sanctuary cities and are let free and protected over our own population, to the point where there's an actual feces problem on the streets of San Francisco, which is what this article is about here. According to the Blaze here, it says San Francisco's poop problem explodes on the city's streets and sidewalks. It sounds like they're in deep doo-doo out there, right? There have been more than 118,000 reports of poop since 2011. Poop on the streets has long plagued the city of San Francisco, but the problem has exploded over the past few years as the city's homeless population has surged. By the way, there was one incident where someone had a trash bag that they were saving as, I guess, using as kind of like a portable potty, full of feces that they then threw out onto the street of San Francisco, and it busted open and actually made people sick as they were passing by on the sidewalks. That was something that we actually covered last year on the show. It says reports of human feces found on the streets and sidewalks jumped to an all-time record of 28,084 in 2018, up by more than 5 times the number of reported 7 years ago. In 2011, there were only 5,547 reports of human waste in public spaces. Now, wouldn't you know, of all the different places that could be covering this story, BuzzFeed is actually one of those. BuzzFeed's John Pakowski shared a graph of the incidents reported over the 8-year period, and you could just see it shooting up in regards to human feces incidents per year in San Francisco. During the first quarter of this year, There's already 6,676 reports of people saying that there's poop on the streets, according to Forbes magazine. Overall, at least 118,352 reports of human waste have been reported in San Francisco since 2011. I'm going to go off track here real quick. I took a break from politics over the last week to try and listen to some other things that were going on. I typically, when I'm traveling, I'm driving around for hours for my job, and I try to listen to things that educate me, whether it's politics is typically what I'm listening to, or I just picked up a podcast that aired for the first time in 2017, and then the second season was in 2018. And it was Atlanta Monster, the first season, which follows the killings, abductions and killings of young teenage black boys in Atlanta, Georgia, back in the late 70s, early 80s, and them arresting someone and the investigation that went along with it. Very, very intense listen. And you sit there and you become kind of like, I felt like I'm driving along having my Dunkin' Donuts coffee as I'm driving 3 hours back and forth between Pennsylvania and Maryland for my job. I feel like I'm a detective in the car trying to piece together the puzzle and the mystery of what's going on with this. And it's a really good podcast, really well put together. The music for the first season reminds me a lot of the theme to Stranger Things, which it makes it even creepier of a podcast to listen to, but very well put together. The second season is actually, and there's a reason why I'm going off on this tangent, is actually focused on San Francisco and the outlying territory beyond that, and the Zodiac Killer. I didn't know much about the Zodiac Killer. I've heard of him as a famous serial killer and everything, but I didn't know the details of it. And I'm probably about a third of the way through the season right now, and on the fourth set of murders that he committed, and very interesting. But that all centered around, I believe, the late 60s, early 70s, with the Zodiac Killer was in the San Francisco area. And the last murder I heard about on the podcast so far was actually a taxi driver. And when you think about taxi drivers, my word, you're talking about people that pick up strangers as their profession all day long. Just the sheer terror that must have been going through San Francisco taxi drivers after that incident, knowing it was a Zodiac Killer out there killing specifically a taxi driver, going out and picking up new people. You wouldn't want to pick up a male at that point in time. And what must have been going through the minds of the city, just gripped in terror by this person that's sending out these cryptic puzzles as he's committing these murders. I find it very fascinating, and it's been really interesting to listen to, but I'm interested in getting back to it. Anyway, back to San Francisco and their poop problem. We moved from serial killer problems over to poop problems within a matter of decades, obviously. Government watchdog Open the Books documented every spot of human fecal matter reported to the city services over the past 8 years. Open the Books is a non-profit organization that accepts no government funding in California. Go figure. There's all these different things. I know that there's one app that you can actually download, and it's almost like, I don't know if you guys use Waze. Waze is the popular GPS mapping for getting around cities and stuff like that, and it actually shows you where cops are sitting. So that when you ride up on them, you can slow down, and it's probably really infuriating for police officers across the country. I know personally one of my friends is a police officer, and we were on our way to see a comedian. It was actually Dane Cook at the Sands in Bethlehem. And I brought open the Waze app, and I said, I got to see where the pigs are sitting before we head out there. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, this app, Waze, it shows where you guys sit all the time. And he said, no, it doesn't. And I showed him when cops were coming up, and he goes, oh my gosh. He's a motorcycle patrol guy, and he's like, I'm going to download this app so I know when people know where I am and everything. So I just found it fascinating that he didn't know. But there's an app like Waze that shows you where poop is in San Francisco, and the heavier the poop cloud, or the darker the poop cloud is, the heavier the concentration of reported incidents of poop is in San Francisco. And it's It's funny, but it's not. One of my most popular videos, some of my most popular videos on YouTube right now, is centered around San Francisco and the problems that they've been having. I know the liberal mass exodus video that I did has over 10,000 views right now. The poop map video that I'm talking about right now has many views on it as well. By the way, if you're watching right now, the one thing I did forget to mention is that you can actually follow me on social media, where I post all the time about the articles that will most likely end up in the podcast and other articles that I find interesting. Just find me on Facebook at the Generation Y Conservative. Just search for it, hit like on the page, and follow to get notifications. So you can also find me on YouTube. More importantly, there I'm trying to hit that subscriber threshold right now, where I can actually start making getting ad revenue on that as well. So that's important to me. If you're a fan of the show or of Mojo, I would encourage you to head over to the Generation Y Conservative YouTube channel so that you can subscribe there and hit the bell for notifications when we post new videos. That includes podcasts, the Relic Hunter collaboration videos with gun reviews, also movie reviews, and a couple other things that we do as well. Also, if you want to interact with me on Twitter, it's at Gen Y Conservative without the E on the end, where you can actually see me interacting with Alexandria Ocasio Cortez and Elizabeth Warren, making fun of their statements on there over this weekend as well. Okay, so poop is a big problem in San Francisco, but what else is going on in San Francisco? Well, the reason why there's a poop problem is because there's a homeless problem. Let's be honest with it. The other article that's here says a surge in homeless people seeking shelter at San Francisco airport raises security concerns. I was just at the San Francisco airport. When was I at San Francisco airport? Oh, last year when I went out to Hawaii. I could feel the heat. I can feel the heat of the liberals just looking at me. I don't know. Maybe it was my American flag shirt. A surge in homeless people seeking refuge inside San Francisco International Airport has raised security concerns and has officials searching for solutions to the problem. Police contacts with homeless people have tripled over the past 2 years, according to public records obtained by the San Francisco Chronicle. The Chronicle was mentioned in that podcast, by the way, on the Zodiac Killer. In February, authorities received about 40 calls per day regarding homeless at the airport, compared to about 12 a day in March of 2017. 40 calls per day in regards to the homeless. That's insane. Even 12 calls in a day back in 2017 is pretty high. A former airport employee told KTVU TV that she wouldn't walk around the airport alone during the early morning hours because she often encountered homeless individuals. The problem at the airport is an additional layer to the homeless crisis affecting the Bay Area. So here's the question. How do they actually end up at the airport? Well, the majority arrive at the terminal in the middle of the day in the middle of the night by train, according to officials. How are they getting train tickets? How are they getting on the trains? Again, sounds like the California cities are busing these people around to try and keep them out of their cities. It says a Bay Area rapid transit requires people to get off the train when it goes out of service for the night. Bottom line, this particular arrival at night is an area of focus as a disproportionate number of riders on trains are homeless. We've been working with BART or BART to examine where trains terminate for the night, and we've also requested that BART sweep trains for homeless before they arrive at SFO. Armando Sandoval, police crisis intervention team coordinator for BART, said he isn't surprised by the problem. I think it's typical of migrating homeless. It could be buses, trains, or subway trains. He told the newspaper. They spend time on the trains and forget where they are and end up at the end of the line locations. So what's being done? It says here that as far as airport officials are concerned, they might make Samtrans tokens available to them. We might, if they're eligible, transport them to a nearby homeless shelter. If BART is still running, we can give them a token to a BART train. Ultimately, we want to develop advocacy that finds the proper channels for these individuals. So we're starting to reach out to homeless advocacy in San Mateo County. We're looking to set up something with the city of San Francisco as well, according to Yackel, who is one of these officials here. So pretty interesting there. San Francisco, as I mentioned before, they have a real problem with their homeless population because no one's taking care of them. Let's talk about the overall picture of California for a second here. If all the United States split off their states and each state became a country, California would have the 12th largest economy as its own country in the world. Yet, California sits in a deficit most of the time with their economy. In comparison, when you look at a conservative state like Texas, which also has a massive economy and competes on the world stage, excuse me, you have a surplus in Texas. So where's the difference there? And where that really leads even more so is the fact that as a large economy, you would think that they would be pulling enough money to actually take care of their state. Instead, they rely on national emergency funds from the federal government to take care of their wildfires that happen, mainly because the environmentalists have prevented them from cleaning up brush, which turns a wildfire into a super wildfire. You have drought situations in California because you're not allowed to hold water in the reserves. And what's the reason for all this stuff? You know, it's all environmentalist impact on the state, which ends up destroying. Think about the super wildfires. Not only are people losing their homes and lives in a lot of cases, but deforestation is burning down, which takes the homes of thousands, if not millions of animals, millions, if not it's definitely in the millions, hundreds of millions of animals, right, with these super fires and the animals that end up in these situations. So who are the environmentalists really protecting? My point is to go even further into the economy of California, you have to then take that and look at the problems that they're having. Environmentalism is one of the things that they're having a problem with because their policies don't exactly line up with what ends up happening there. But when it comes to their taking care of people, as I mentioned before, the immigrants into their state, you have homeless Americans in the state. You're supposed to be one of the 12th, you're supposedly the 12th largest economy in the world, and you can't even take care of setting up housing projects for the homeless on your streets to get them off the streets so that you don't have a feces problem. Think about, there's so many feces incidents in San Francisco that it's become a health problem. There was a convention last year that was set in San Francisco for the past couple decades by a major corporation. I forget which one it was. For the first time ever, they moved the convention out of San Francisco because they said you can't walk from any of the hotels to this convention center without going down streets that absolutely have an overwhelming stench of human urine and feces. Okay? You have incidents like what happened with that Katie, I forget Katie's last name. She was the girl that was walking with her father at the pier when an illegal immigrant shot off a shot and it hit her in the head or the chest or something like that, and she died, right? We have sanctuary cities that are allowing criminals back out on the streets without any documentation on where they are, who they are, where they came from, or anything, and we're harboring potential and literal criminals in these cities and causing that much more of an issue. So what it comes down to is San Francisco used to be a fantastic American city, right? The Golden Gate Bridge and everything. It used to be a city that showed up in all your TV shows, one of the most popular being Full House. It was a symbol of the greatness of American cities. But when you think of San Francisco now, the only things that are really coming to mind for people are the sanctuary state for the mass amount of illegal immigrants in this city and in the state as a whole. You have drug problems on the streets and in the subways. You have a human feces and urine problem. You have homeless issues all over the place where you're walking over people in the streets. What does San Francisco really stand for anymore? That's really what we should be asking is, how do you, as California or as a California citizen, really promote any tourism to the city of San Francisco? And that's not just a problem with San Francisco. This is starting to overflow now into all the other surrounding cities, mainly because California's way of dealing with problems is getting rid of the problems, not treating the underlying symptoms, treating the symptoms, not the actual problem itself. If you get shot by a gun, right, and it starts to bleed, the first thing that you don't do is put a Band-Aid over it to stop the bleeding. That's not going to solve the problem, right? You have to get in there, remove the bullet, seal things up, stitch it up, then you put a Band-Aid over the wound, okay? What San Francisco and these other California cities and the state as a whole are doing is taking that gunshot wound, or multiple gunshot wounds, I would say, those gunshots, those bullets being homeless, and all the problems associated with that, with the feces and urine, the illegal immigrants, and every other problem that they're dealing with in their economy that they put themselves into a deficit, including high taxes and other liberal policies. And what they're doing is putting a bandage over it while it's just gushing blood all over the place. A bandage isn't going to stop it. You have to treat the actual problem and seal it up, then work your way out from there and actually treat all the symptoms that go along with that. So California refuses to address these problems directly and instead puts politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters into positions of power to actually promote their policies, their liberal policies of doing things that are failing in their own cities and states over there. Their way of dealing with the problem, when I said that they get rid of the problem, is literally by moving the problem to another city and waiting for the same problem to fill up in their city again so they can then again move those problems to another city. The worst part is that California doesn't even seem to be taking care of just moving around the problems within its own state. When you have states like Hawaii saying that they're shipping people out there to be taken care of and on a one-way ticket, California has a real issue on their hands, and it's really disgusting to see that this state, which is supposed to be the symbol of liberalism, what do you have left to say about your policies on the left anymore when places like Texas are succeeding under conservative principles while they have their pockets of liberalism in Austin and Dallas and stuff like that, or Houston? Those policies work in Texas. The policies in California don't work. So obviously, maybe California needs to start looking towards Texas for policy ideas without actually going to Texas to get those policy ideas. But listen, we're going to talk about some gun stuff when we come back, including the Relic Hunter and Generation Y conservative review of the Smith & Wesson Revolver. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment rally that I'm going to be speaking at this summer, and also take a look at the last Second Amendment rally that I did with them last year as well. So stay tuned after the commercials. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Generation Y Conservative Show. Okay, this half hour is actually brought to you by Tar River Arms. Now, Tar River Arms is America's virtual gun store, the most convenient place in the world to shop for firearms. This is pretty cool. It's the first virtual gun store, making it easier and more comfortable than ever to purchase your firearm online. It's modernizing online firearm sales to accommodate the online generation and those who prefer brick and mortar experiences through 3D interactive experiences to view and inspect the gun you are purchasing, which is actually really cool. Now, I would actually encourage you to actually go and see these types of guns in person too through your local shop, but then compare prices. Maybe Tar River will actually beat their prices. There's weekly specials that eliminate shipping and broker fees. You order, you pick up, and there's no additional fees. There's great guns, great prices, and great service. Guess what? Just like Patriot Mobile, this is a veteran-owned and veteran-run business, which makes it something that you should definitely look into. Tar River Arms, you can actually find them at traguns.com. and tell them that the Generation Y conservative from Mojo 50 sent you. Also coming soon, just so you know, layaway and consignment options are on track to be live, if not already. So go and check into that as well for layaway options. Also, in regards to guns, I save all this stuff for the same type of segment here. Gunbox. Head over to thegunbox.com, thegunbox.com. There's actually 2 different boxes that they're most interested in you checking out right now. The Gunbox 2.0 is the ultimate quick and accessible gun safe, ideal for securing your firearm when not carrying on your person. Its cutting-edge technology and innovative safety features provide peace of mind while storing your handgun on a nightstand, desk, countertop, or anywhere you might need fast access. With a simple swipe of a finger, press of a custom key code, or wave of an RFID card or fob, the Gunbox opens in seconds. And when you're facing something that you need to pull a gun on, seconds matter. The modern design and sleek lines not only make it a great addition to any space, but it's perfect reason to bring your everyday carry gun out from hiding in the closet or the basement safe. Asking yourself, will my concealed carry weapon fit into the Gunbox? The answer is yes, as the Gunbox fits most full-size handguns with room to spare for extra magazines, a blade, and other items you carry for protection. How about this one? The other one is actually called the Echo. Okay, the Gunbox Echo is ideal travel size handgun safe, perfect for those on the go, and has the latest technology to secure your firearm while giving you quick access. Just like the other one, it allows you access with the swipe of a finger, press of a key code, wave of a card or fob, and Echo unlocks in seconds. The Echo was engineered to be compact, but is still large enough to fit most full-size handguns. The internal audible alarm will sound if the unit is moved, bumped, or tampered with, giving you the peace of mind that your firearm is safe and secure. For added safety, attach the Echo to your bed frame, desk, or inside a vehicle with a security tether cable. This is actually kind of cool. The Echo is TSA approved and easily fits in your checked baggage. Its portable design makes transporting your firearm simple to and from home, the office, the shooting range, or anywhere you might need it, and also fits perfectly in any car, truck, RV, or boat. The Echo's internal rechargeable battery lasts up to 1 year on a single charge. The Gunbox Echo is affordable yet efficient and is the ultimate way to safeguard your family, secure your firearm, and defend your freedom. Why have a handgun for safety and protection if you can't get to it when you need to? And every second counts when you are trying to protect yourself and your family. All right, with this segment, I typically like to dedicate it to firearm-related stories, whether they're news stories or other things that are going on. Plus, we're going to get to the firearm review and spotlight video with Relic Hunter firing line. But the one thing I want to point out is on, let's see here, Saturday, June 8th of this year from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., at Relic Hunter Firing Line, which is 4671 Egypt Road in Copley, Pennsylvania. There's going to be a Second Amendment rally. Now, those speakers include myself, Joshua Prince, who's a Second Amendment rights attorney, Thomas Carroll, who's chairman of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party, Andrew Oliveira, who's a young Second Amendment Constitution activist. He's actually been on the show before as a co-host guest. Just out of high school, really smart kid, and he led a counter protest to the walkouts when the Parkland shooting incident occurred. So really sharp guy. And also Maureen Gorey, who is a Second Amendment rights supporter, NRA trainer, and Tea Party activist. She is actually the one who trained myself and my wife on proper procedures for carrying a handgun and shooting it at the range. Just by taking her 1 hour lesson, I think it was, I increased my target ability by, I would say, about 200%. It was amazing because there's just misconceptions on the way that you stand. Do you stand with your hands forward? Do you stand kind of like off to the side with your side facing and everything? How do you look? Do you look with your dominant eye down the sights? Those are all misconceptions or different ways of perceiving things, but someone like her who's NRA certified to train people with firearms will actually show you the right stance, the right way to look down the sights, and how to hold a firearm and quickly draw it on someone when you have to use it. And she'll be the first one to tell you that you should not pull a firearm unless you intend on shooting. You shouldn't pull it to threaten someone and hope that you don't have to use it. If you pull that firearm, you better be ready to also be pulling the trigger as soon as it comes up to your target as well. So you'll find that across the country, if there's 400 million firearms in the country, and statistically speaking, not that many crimes committed using a firearm, when 2/3 of those are wiped out in regards to them being suicides, it really narrows it down to the amount of gun violence that's actually committed here in the United States being pretty minimal, and not at the top of the list for most countries, by the way, as well. But I will be speaking at the event. There will also be Craig Stevens of the local radio station WAEB, who's on there as well. And I would encourage you to come out. There's going to be different things that I'm going to be talking about, but I want to get an idea of what maybe you want to hear about the Second Amendment, and maybe things that you want to be educated on, or things that you want to hear statistics about the U.S. compared to other countries around the world, and why gun control laws don't work, right? How we compare against England or Australia that instituted a gun ban and everything. So before we get into the Relic Hunter video, what I want to do is I want to show you a clip of my last speaking engagement there on the Second Amendment, and then I have a question for you after that. So let's take a look.
Well, I'm here to talk to you about a subject that a lot of people will tell you is outdated, old-fashioned, and not even relevant in today's society. And they would say the same thing about the Bible, but they're wrong on both fronts. I'm here to talk to you and inform you on some things in regards to the Constitution. Our founding documents included the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and Bill of Rights were written with weight to every single word. After multiple attempts between Jefferson and Adams and others to get the language right, they came up with something revolutionary, knowing full well that it would put a death warrant on their heads. Our Constitution is what makes America, America. It is the document that separates and sets apart our country from all the others. Yes, we have our faults. I think we need to admit those sometimes. We continue to have them. But as a country, we have and will overcome those because of the setup of our system and the tenacity of our citizens. How is our Constitution different than other countries? Well, unlike other countries, instead of listing our rights, ours was molded by minds with the ever-present tyranny looming over their shoulders. Instead of listing our rights, they listed things that the government cannot do to you. And I think that's very important. It binds the hands of government from getting out of control and becoming a tyrannical regime. Not many people learn about that angle in school, though, if it's even learned at all. But now that you know, I want you to take a listen to some of these. The First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the free speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Congress shall make no law regarding these. This is a limitation on the government, not us. The Second Amendment, we can get a round of applause for that. That's why we're here for today. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Be infringed by who? Let's hear it, guys. Come on, get a little bit more interactive. The government. The Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued, but upon probable clause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Who would search without a warrant or seize property? The government again, right? And so on and so on. You read through the Constitution, these are all limits on our government, which is the exact opposite of what you see in most countries around the world, which is telling you what your rights are. This is telling our government what they can't do to us. And I think once people start realizing that and rereading our founding documents, they gain a whole new appreciation for what America was actually built upon. So let's head back to why we're actually here today, and that is the Second Amendment. Who is a well-regulated militia? Raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand. Every single one of us is part of that well-regulated militia. Every able-bodied man, woman, and child in this country that is able to responsibly handle a firearm is there as part of the militia to keep this government in check. And I'd say for hunting too, and other purposes as well. So is it for hunting purposes? Yes. Is it for personal defense? Yes. But it shall not be infringed. So it doesn't matter what your reason is for a firearm. If you have one, it's your right to have one.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
One of the best questions that you get from people, especially on the left, is, well, why do you need an AR-15? Well, who the heck are you to tell me what I do or don't need for self-defense? It doesn't matter.
America, that's
Shall not
why.
be infringed. So, is it for defense against a tyrannical government?
Yes.
Absolutely. It's amazing how we hear daily that the Trump administration is a fascist dictatorship, and yet they fight for our firearms to be taken away and only used by this said regime. By the way, the Pennsylvania Constitution is arguably better than the federal level. Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania State Constitution states, the right of citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be questioned. A little bit stronger language there for you. For decades and centuries, we have had people fighting for their constitutional rights, the women's suffrage movement, the civil rights movement, to be equal to their fellow man. And for the first time in our history, we have people fighting for their rights to be taken away. Think about how crazy that is. So let's go down that road for a second, though, so each and every one of you can realize just how dangerous the loss of our Second Amendment would be to our nation. If the Second Amendment is gone, what is to stop any of the other amendments being stripped from our Constitution?
Nothing.
Exactly. I like this guy's passion. Put him up front. If you enjoy and appreciate protesting events like this, you are taking advantage of the First Amendment. If that is taken from us, your right to comment on, criticize, or otherwise speak freely is reliant on the whim of your party being in power. And I can guarantee you that the political pendulum will always swing, and those in power will always call for the silencing of others on the other side of the aisle. So yes, I am outright telling you right now that the Second Amendment grants us, as citizens, the opportunity to hold our government accountable to protect the rest of the Bill of Rights. It is the only amendment that defends all the other amendments. Dean mentioned this before, there are upwards of 310 million firearms in the United States, and less than 1% of them are ever used in a violent crime. As a matter of fact, the majority of gun deaths are from suicides, which feeds right into our argument that there is something wrong with people, not the firearms.
That's right.
How about this? Many of you, I'm sure, on social media and other places have been seeing graphs that people have been posting up a lot. in regards to how bans on guns work in other countries, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland. And what it says on those graphs is that when instituted, the gun deaths go down. I'm going to give you a little teaser here. It's actually true. The gun deaths do go down, but for obvious reasons. There's less guns in the society. What they don't tell you, though, is deceiving. What they don't show you is that the overall homicide rate increases after these gun bans. And the reason for that is because you have emboldened the criminals to go after people that are now defenseless. And whether they're using guns, it doesn't matter. They're still killing. They're using some other type of object to do this. It all sounds so depressing. It's enough to get you angry. I know there's anger here today, and that's why we're all here. But I'm not angry, okay? I'm actually stand here full of hope. While millennials are a mixed bag that lean more towards the socialist Bernie Sanders mentality, it is the next generation after that you should be focusing on. You see, the left has overplayed their hand the last couple years. These children have grown up watching their older siblings and parents wearing pussy hats and throwing bigger temper tantrums than them, rioting and screaming at the sky, all just over election results. They see the insanity of walking on eggshells to not offend people, but realize everything offends the easily offendable. They've seen the demonization of the family and marriage and divorce rates of over 60% today. Believe it or not, there's actually multiple articles being written by worried media members about how conservative this next generation actually is. Even shining examples like our local Easton High School student, Andrew, who spoke earlier. And that gives me a lot of hope. But you should be able to handle these counter arguments when you come in contact with people in society. Because it is facts, statistics, and the Constitution ultimately, and you as a citizen, that will win this battle for the Second Amendment, not feelings. So thank you very much, guys.
Okay, so after seeing that, I really went into and dug into the importance of the Constitution of the United States and how the Second Amendment basically protects all of our other amendments, and that without it, by taking it out, that you're basically opening the door for our politicians to remove every other amendment and right that we have that's guaranteed to us through our Constitution as well. Because once you take away the ability for us to fight our government, what else do you have left to do besides yell at them for taking away those other rights that we have? So that's one of the things I was talking about then. This year, I'd like to change that up a little bit, and I'm wondering if you could leave comments in the comments section and let me know what you would like to hear. Now, even if you're not able to make it, if you're across the country or something like that, let me know what you would be most interested in hearing about in regards to the Second Amendment, because I will be able to post that video for you, and I'll probably spotlight that as content in the show once that time arrives then as well. So in the comments, let me know what you want to know in regards to the Second Amendment, whether it's comparing against other countries, about the logistics of it. The lawyer will be speaking there and everything as well. In regards to maybe why it's important, why is it still relevant today after hundreds of years ago when the Founding Fathers implemented that? What does a militia mean, right? These are all things that I would be happy to explain, but if I throw everything together into one speech, it could get convoluted and drag on. So I don't want to do that either. But listen, the next thing up here is actually the Relic Hunter Firing Line and Generation Y Conservative Show collaboration on taking a look at and spotlighting the Smith & Wesson revolver. So let's take a look.
Hi, this is Gerard with Relic Hunter Firing Line. Today we're going to look at and shoot the Smith & Wesson 642, one of the original and still best concealed carry revolvers. The 642 is a 5-shot J-frame gun and has smooth lines and is hammerless on the outside, so that when you conceal carry this and you go to draw it, you're not going to snag on anything with your clothing. It's made specifically for that. The grip is a little smaller, but you get used to it. This gun is, I wouldn't say it's accurate at like a great distance, but this is made strictly for self-protection with, I believe it's a 1.875-inch barrel. The trigger is a fairly heavy trigger on it, like most revolvers, and that's made because revolvers don't come with a safety. So you want to make sure that when you're pulling the trigger, you mean to. Let's go shoot it.
Okay, Gerard, we have a different one today, so what do you got?
This is the Smith & Wesson Airweight 38. It's a J-frame. It's a number 642 is the model, which has no hammer on it. It's an internal hammer. This back in the day was the go-to concealed carry firearm for 30 years, I would say, and still is very popular today with a lot of people. It is strictly a self-defense firearm. This is not something you go to the range and have fun with. It is for, up close.
Okay. One of the things that you had said, because of there being no hammer and things to get caught on, is that typically with revolvers it has a harder trigger to pull.
Exactly.
So
the safety on a revolver, I always say, is the trigger pull. From the factory, it's going to be more pound pressure than a standard trigger. So this model, no external hammer. If you have it in a pocket, you're going to be able to draw it and not get it caught on anything, hopefully. It shouldn't, because this is all smooth.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's try it out.
All right. Oh, nice. So, Chris, what did you think?
So one thing I mentioned before I got started there, that I have surprisingly never shot a revolver before. So I actually had a lot of fun with it. It went a little quicker because you're used to a full magazine and
you've only got 5 shots.
Exactly, yeah. So as soon as I got to the end, I was like, uh-oh, I think something's... But it wasn't, everything was fine. It was actually, I just ran out. But this one, is it typical that with revolvers that you have to aim lower? Or is that just compensation?
It's probably the distance we're shooting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think one of these 2 shots here was one of my first ones, and I started aiming down here, and that's when I started getting right outside the center there. So as long as you know where you have to compensate for, it was really nice to shoot. I liked it a lot.
Excellent. And again, everything on the target.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thanks for watching today at Relic Hunter Firing Line. If you mention that you saw this on the Gen Y Conservative podcast, stop on in if you're interested in one of these firearms, and we're sure to give you a discount. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, I hope that you enjoyed that video, and if you're interested in the Smith & Wesson revolver, you can go to Relic Hunter Firing Line in Copley, Pennsylvania, and see Gerard, the owner, or any of his staff, and let them know that the Generation Y Conservative sent you there. You'll get a discount on the gun. You can also probably get discounts at the firing range just by mentioning that you're a listener of the Generation Y Conservative show on Mojo 50 Radio. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the Mueller Report. Okay, so we'll get more into that after these commercials. Welcome back to the last half hour of the Generation Y Conservative Show. I am your host, Chris. Listen, before we get into everything, I want to remind everyone that if you're interested in following along on social media, you can always find me on Facebook. Just search for the Generation Y Conservative, and you can hit like on the page as well as follow to get notifications when I post new articles. And typically what I do is I take news articles and post them on there with my own thoughts. We post funny memes and everything. And it's your opportunity to see the types of topics that are probably coming up in that week's next show on Mojo 50 Radio. So, especially if it's something that concerns you or that you find funny, you'll definitely find it on the show when it airs then. Also, go to YouTube and search for the Generation Y Conservative, and you'll find the channel there. You can hit subscribe and the bell to get notifications when we publish new videos, whether they're the show itself, movie reviews, gun spotlight reviews like in the last segment that we had for the Smith & Wesson Revolver, or little tidbits of different things. So we have multiple things going on. There's a lot of movies coming out this year, by the way, that we're doing movie reviews on. Not only did we see the Unplanned Movie review in the first half hour of the show today, but last week we had the Shazam movie review, which I would actually recommend that you go back and watch that as well. And next week is the Avengers Endgame, which, as far as I'm concerned, is my most anticipated movie for the year in that genre. There's only one other genre that I'm looking forward to a movie being released for, and that's the It Chapter 2 in the horror category, because I've been a fan of Stephen King's It and a lot of his stuff since I was a kid, but it was the defining horror movie for me as a kid and why I hate clowns. So when they did the remake, I was like, I don't know if this guy Skarsgård can really capture the essence of Pennywise the clown like Tim Curry did. I just don't know if he could do it. And yet he took the presence of Pennywise and with a Victorian outfit on, I guess you could say, turned Pennywise into this menacing, scary as hell version of Pennywise that just, it blows my mind. I can't believe they did such a good job on Chapter 1 with those kids and everything. So I'm really looking forward to Chapter 2. That being said, there are movies between those and towards the end of the year with the new Star Wars movie and everything that you're sure to get a movie review on from me, the Generation Y Conservative, on that channel as well. So hit subscribe. Also, by the way, if you are interested, you can go to Twitter and follow along with me there and get involved. And all you have to do is search for @GenYConservative without the E on the end. Follow me there, interact with me as I interact with other Mojo hosts, and participating in the hashtag what I learned today when I possibly can, and terrorizing, not literally, but terrorizing the thought process of liberal politicians as well. You're not going to find me getting into too many heated arguments with liberal Twitter users that are just attacking me for attacking's sake, because I'm less interested in engaging with individuals who can't hold an intelligent conversation than I am with interacting with these politicians and having people see that discussion play out and changing the hearts and minds of those individuals. So that's more what I'm interested in, besides interacting with fun people on our side of the argument. This half hour, the last half hour, is actually brought to you by the Doc Thompson Health Challenge. It was created to help Brad Staggs improve his health, and it was created as a challenge that Doc Thompson would be proud of and support. Doc Thompson was a healthy guy, okay? Unfortunately, with his death at such a young age, he died while trying to be healthy. He was jogging along a Amtrak train track when he was struck, and I don't know why that happened, but his passing has woken up a lot of the community, especially the radio community that talk about conservative policies and stuff, that we need to take care of our health more. This challenge brings the Mojo 50 community together for a common cause, which is to heal, survive, and thrive. It's a 90-day challenge. Now, this challenge started on Monday, March 4th of this year, but don't let that stop you from getting involved now, okay? It's hosted by Gwen Rich, who is a health advocate and founder of The Rich Solution at www.therichsolution.com. That's RICH solution.com. Or therichsolution.com, sorry. Now, they talk about the 8 obstacles for everyone when it comes to their health. Those 8 obstacles that you need to conquer for optimal health include diet, mental attitude, exercise, sleep, stress, environmental toxins, community, and emotional health. Most of that stuff, if you look through that, like here, I'll just do it right now. Mental attitude, sleep, stress, environmental toxins, community, and emotional health. That's 6 of the 8 deal with your mental well-being, because you can't work on your physical well-being unless you're actually taking care of your mental well-being. If you're in a depressed state, or you just have a lazy mindset and everything, you're not going to be able to push forward through these goals and actually get yourself to be healthy. So to find out more about that, just go to therichsolution.com. Also, this half hour is brought to you by Atrantil, okay? Now, you can go to lovemytummy.com/mojo or lovemytummy.com /spoony, SPOONY. Atrantil is a 90-day capsule box, which is normally $40 a box. But when you buy 3 boxes with our coupon code, you get a 3-month supply of bloating and digestive relief for only $99, which saves you over $20 on 3 boxes of Atrantil. It's the first ever over-the-counter proven solution for bloating. I've been bloated before. I don't get it too often, but you want to laugh at it when you think of someone being bloated, but bloating can be painful. It can feel like a rock in your stomach's rock hard and create this like tension in your stomach that is just painful. So you want to treat it if you have this issue on a common basis or a common reoccurrence. It's developed by board-certified gastroenterologist Ken Brown. It's safe for daily use. It's 100% natural polyphenols are designed to address bloating problems where they begin, not just treat a symptom. It's not a probiotic, not an antibiotic. This is a blend of polyphenols and is desired by your body to work as a gut regulator to end methane and then function as a postbiotic to benefit your overall health. You know, this whole gut regulation thing is pretty fascinating. They're starting to think that things like dementia and Alzheimer's and problems like that are actually due to gut problems and an imbalance of your gut. So it only makes sense that a lot of these problems may circulate around your gut, and if you have bloating issues, maybe that's a sign of a deeper problem. This is the world's only digestive aid that contains K-Braco, okay? K-Braco, Colorado. For athletes, it's the world's only bloating remedy that is NSF certified for sport. So why would you get this? If you're ever bloated after eating, get abdominal distension and tightness. If you feel tired and heavy after eating a meal. If you have unpredictable bathroom habits with constipation or even sporadic diarrhea. Symptoms that look like IBS. So, again, go to lovemytummy.com /mojo or lovemytummy.com /spoony, okay? So you can go to those 2 websites, and with that offer, you can get the 3 boxes on a $20 discount. Okay, let's get into more politics now here. Rashida Talib. She's one of those 3 freshman Congress people that are really driving people nuts right now, along with Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. This woman is bat crap crazy, okay? You know, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that we went from a time on 9/11 of saying, listen, there is a religion out there. The Islamic religion is hell-bent on destroying the Western way of life. And all of us being able to recognize that. And then within a few years, getting to a spot where society basically tries to bubble wrap and protect the Muslim communities from any type of criticism. If you criticize at all, you're Islamophobic, right? And that's not the case, but it's people like Rashida Talib and Ilhan Omar that get away with saying the most outlandish crap, okay, and shedding a bad light on the moderate Muslim community, and you can see that they're for like the radical Islamic practices, and yet they get away with saying what they do because if you criticize them, you're just Islamophobic. So here's what Rashida Talib said in regards to ICE. Okay, we're talking about immigration earlier. It says Rashida Talib, representative, incites activists to shut down ICE and stop waiting for Congress to pass a law. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what that means, but it says the Democratic representative of Michigan told an audience not to wait for Congress to change the laws, but instead take their own steps to shut down the Department of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This is what she said. I want you all to shut them down. We can shut them down. Don't wait for Congress to act on this. Shut them down. She went on to specifically cite hunger strikes as one method to shut down ICE. There are some people that are using hunger strikes, all these other things, going to the border, and I plan to. All these other things. What are these other things? Well, she's literally saying that without policy changes, she wants you as a citizen to get out there and shut down ICE. Now, hunger strike is one of the ways of doing that, but she also says all these other things, right? Let me be very clear on what Rashida Talib is actually advocating for. Domestic terrorism, okay? She's saying that we need to shut down ICE by any means necessary if the government refuses to do it themselves. So Rashida Talib is actually invoking violence against American citizens that happen to be ICE officials that are at the border trying to protect us from the evil people that would get in. Not all immigrants are evil. It's that a portion of those, percentage-wise, statistically speaking, have to be evil people, all right? And we see that all the time. We see the news reports all over the place. Drunk driving illegal immigrants that crash into American families and kill them all. The violence at the border, the sex trafficking, the drug trafficking that comes across the border. And we're supposed to just allow these things to happen out of compassion for them trying to reach a better life from coming from crap hole countries, and at which point you have again that circular argument that is counterintuitive to their other argument. They on one hand will argue that we need to save these people from the crappy, I want to say the S word, I'm sorry, the crappy countries that they come from, and yet will rail against a president who says that they come from crap hole countries and say that those are beautiful countries that they come from. How dare you say that they're crap hole countries? But then will advocate and say, well, we need to give them asylum because they're coming from dangerous countries. Which is it? What are you trying to say here? It doesn't make any sense. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth, which happens. That should be the slogan for the Democratic Party in 2020. Vote for put X in because there's over like 20 candidates in now. Vote for the Democrats because we speak out of both sides of our mouth. That should be their slogan coming up. So that's Rashida. Let's go to the other freshman congressman, right? Alexandria Ocasio Cortez and her summing up of the Mueller Report. Now, the Mueller Report, what we've been waiting on for dang near close to 2 years now to prove Russia collusion with Trump and their interference in the elections, turned out to be a big nothing burger, kind of like we all anticipated anyway, because for the past 2 years, the 24-hour news cycles that have been going on in regards to it have been saying it's just around the corner. Trump is definitely involved in something. Why would it be taking 2 years now for them to get this report out there if nothing was involved? Obviously, the evidence is stacking up. It's becoming a mountain against Trump, right? Every single day, the 24-hour news cycle, 22 hours of that on CNN and MSNBC is dedicated to the fact that we're getting ready for this report because it's there. There's something there. Even experts coming on, even though no details were released, saying, yes, there's definitely collusion between Trump and Russia. You know, it's the old saying of if you tell a lie enough that eventually you'll believe it yourself. And I believe that's what happened with the mainstream media. Instead, what actually happened was the Mueller report was released, and it shows that there's nothing that they can point to in regards to Russia collusion with Trump. The only thing that they really can point to, most likely in that, and I haven't read the 400-page report, I don't have time for it. I go based off of not only what the right pushes out in regards to the report, but also what the left highlights from the report. So if there was anything in there, it would be all over the news right now. Instead, they're trying to bring Mueller in front of a congressional hearing because they believe now that it's a conspiracy cover-up of the Mueller report. These people can't let good enough alone, you know? We're going to see in a little bit what this one voter had to say in regards to the report, a Democratic voter, that the Democrats should just leave this alone at this point because it's just making them seem more insane by the day as they try to pursue this type of thing. So anyway, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez sums up with one tweet. It says, she tweeted her response to the release of the Mueller report on Thursday and said that she now backs impeachment. like she didn't before. Give me a break. Which she had previously shrunk from endorsing. I don't think so. Mueller's report is clear in pointing to Congress's responsibility in investigating obstruction of justice by the president. It is our job as outlined in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5 of the U.S. Constitution that she has never read. I guarantee it. I'm guessing that this is one of her aides pointing out something. And they probably had to draw little stick figures and put together like a nice little picture book to explain what the Constitution actually is to her. As such, I'll be signing on to Rashida Talib, there's that name again, her impeachment resolution. Well, of course they are. They're teaming up on this. She had previously been non-committal about impeachment, saying at one point that she would go along with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi about the process not being worthwhile. Later, she cited the political difficulty of impeaching the president. I think what's tough is impeachment in principle is something I openly support, but it's also just the reality of having the votes in the Senate to pursue that. And so that's something that we have to take into consideration. Well, yeah, obviously you do. Stating the obvious facts there. Dum-dum. What was that movie from? The Night in the Museum, the big Stonehenge guys. Dum-dum. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, the Democrat, said on Thursday that impeachment was not worthwhile, echoing Pelosi's earlier sentiments. Yeah, there's a reason for that. Number one, there's nothing there to go after, in which case it's the veteran Democrat Congress people that understand why impeaching or pursuing the impeachment process on Trump is so damaging to the Democrat brand right now. And the freshmen are looking for a spotlight soapbox opportunity to make a name for themselves, to secure and concrete their presence in Congress for decades to come. Okay, so they could be the next Nancy Pelosi, getting old and having dementia in the Congress to the point where they can retire happily and live off of the funds of the American people, right? But Steny Hoyer and Nancy Pelosi, for as horrible as they are as people, realize that pursuing impeachment will only ruin the Democratic brand, because what happens is to go through the process, to investigate, after 2 years of an investigation, already wasting millions of dollars of American taxpayer money, will only contribute even more to wasting more money when they're talking about doing things that would constitute liberal policies that they're pushing for the American people in the process of running for president in the next election. They're going to be raising our taxes anyway. So they already know that that's going a strike against them. Then they're going to waste even more of our taxpayer money on falsely chasing after things. And on top of that, the Mueller report produced nothing. There's nothing to pursue in that case. So they just end up looking like complete morons. I mean, AOC does a good job of that on her own anyway. But it just shows you that these freshmen Congress people like Rashida Talib and Ilhan Omar and AOC are just trying to spotlight themselves and get themselves on front page headlines for everything. At this point, I just can't believe that for every major article that's written about Alexandria Ocasio Cortez or video that's put out there, 99% of them are highlighting her naiveness and stupidity, and this girl still keeps on coming out and trying to make a name for herself. Why doesn't she shrink into the shadows, for crying out loud? It's embarrassing at this point. But listen, don't take it from me. Let's actually see what this guy had to say on MSNBC in regards to why it's a bad idea for the Democrats to keep on pursuing this Mueller report and making a big deal out of it when there's obviously nothing there. So let's take a look at that real quick.
But I do want to bring in one of the voters who I've been talking to this morning, Harold Chase. And you're someone who, now that you've seen the report come out, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that, like I said earlier, that it's all false, the reports. There's nothing in there that shows the President of the United States is guilty of anything. There's no Russian collusion and there's no obstruction. They're going to try to find something, look at that report, pick it apart, and they'll try to find something and run with it. And nothing's going to happen.
So you say they, I think you're talking about Democrats. When you say they're going to run with it, do you think that they should talk about this as they campaign for president?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's just going to destroy them. They won't get in. They won't win in 2020 if they keep pushing this.
And what do you think, to you, the most important thing is now that this report is out? What do you want to see happen next?
Well, the report is out. I think they just need to move on and just drop it. If they just keep going forward, they're not going to get anywhere. They're just destroying themselves.
Thank you.
Okay, so even Democratic citizens are taking a look at the information coming out and saying this is a big mistake that the Democrats have been pursuing for 2 years now, and it turned out to be nothing. And the fact that they have made such a big deal over the past 2 years has really highlighted the fact that the Democratic left, the liberal progressive left, has lost their damn minds over these things, and that we're able to spotlight now the insanity of the left and what they do. There was actually another video where they were talking, and on CNN, this one woman was talking about this openly gay mayor and what they were doing. And she said, for all these protesters that come out and protest against abortion and the LGBT community, LGBTQIA and second whatever, free spirit stuff, that if these people are Christians and that they love Jesus, then why aren't they more like Jesus and more friendly, and that they should be taking that cue from Jesus? There's a good point there. We talked about in the Unplanned Movie that there's two types of Christian protesters, those holding up signs and yelling at people, and those that try to reach people through compassion. And there's a point to be made there with how we act towards each other. But it was the left that only a couple of years ago were saying love and light and let's take care of each other, let's come together, let's heal the nation and everything. And then the second that Trump gets in, they turn into rioting fanatics that destroy shops on the streets of people, set fires, shut down campus talks from conservative speakers. They mask themselves with handkerchiefs and sunglasses and make themselves look like Unabombers and dress up all in black and go out in the streets and beat the hell out of people. Like, it's the left that has become terrorists. They've become domestic terrorists, and it's just insane for someone to say that, why don't you act more like Jesus, when it's their side that has become the violent option to the right, okay? And that brings me to my conservative reflection. We are getting into the throngs of this new election now, and apparently there may even be someone that challenges Trump on the Republican side, which I think would be a bad idea. But You have the Democrats showing their true colors more and more every single day. For the past 2 years, as I said, they've become more violent. They've become angry in their rhetoric. They've been going after people. If you don't fall lockstep in line, goose step in line, in my opinion, with every single talking point that the left puts out, you're thrown out of the party, okay? If you don't follow every single step, if you happen to be a pro-life Democrat and everything else falls in line with them, you're out of the party. It is either their way or the highway, and they want to talk about how they care about people and your opinions matter and the choices that you have. If they're so pro-choice, you would think that they would allow people to have different choices within their party, but their tent has become more like a shrinking tent, right? It's gone down to now a porta potty. It should be, their platform should not be the liberal tent, but the liberal porta potty, especially with all the poop problems that they're having out in San Francisco. Instead, what we're actually seeing is an increase in the conservative party, because conservative policies have been working around the country, like those in Texas, right? We're seeing the walk away movement, walk away from the Democratic Party, and a lot of those people coming over to the Republican side. And it's not necessarily that you have to vote Republican, but as long as you're not held hostage to the mentality of the left and what they are requiring you to vote for, this is going to be a very special election. And with all the success that Trump has seen and brought to America through his economic policies and the great things that have been happening, he really has been making America great again. And the only people that are not seeing that and are refusing and are in denial and are looking for things to hate him for are those on the left that can't open their eyes, that can't let differing opinions in. But listen, I appreciate everybody joining me tonight. Thank you for joining us on the Generation Y Conservative Show. Have a great night, and God bless America.